Thanks, Mari. We are really delighted to have you joining us from all parts of the world today. Ron and I are excited to talk about inventing the future of innovation through a global certification. You know, we're really starting with the premise that innovation today, and I believe everyone on the phone is probably going to nod their head and agree, is a profession. It's a skill set that can be learned, it can be taught, and like many other professions, like law, nursing, policing, being a pastry chef, it can be certified against a set of common standards. And so today, Ron is going to take us through the certification that GIMI, IXL Center, and Hult are launching. As the Innovation Excellence community, you're getting this ahead of time, which is how we like to operate. We like to bring things that are exciting and important to our community before they go fully public. So let me tell you a little bit about my colleague today, Ron Jonash. Ron has one of the more amazing innovation resumes, and if I read it, it would take way too long. But I'll just tell you.
I'm old.
No, you're not that old. He's currently a senior partner at the IXL Center. He's also a professor on the faculty of the Hult International Business School. He is a partner at a venture capital firm and on the advisory board of Arthur D. Little. And for 20 years, Ron was the managing director of technology and the innovation management practice at Arthur D. Little worldwide. He also served as their chief innovation officer and served on their technology investment board and their management education institute. So we're in great hands today. And Ron, I'm excited for you to share with the community this whole new story about certification. This is our agenda for today. I've introduced Ron. I am the co-founder and executive editor of Innovation Excellence, and I'll be the moderator today. And our objective is really simple, and welcome to all the folks who are just joining. Our objective is to engage you in the certification in our beta phase, which is the phase that we are in. So we're going to share the story of the certification, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and then we're going to take your questions and hopefully have a great dialogue. So with that, Ron, let me ask you, can you just tell us at a high level about this global innovation certification? Where did it come from, and who are the players? And tell us about it.
So this has evolved, particularly the professional certification program has evolved probably over the last 5 years into something that there seems to be a significant need and demand for in the community. The reason is that I'd say 15 or 20 years when we talked about innovation, or when we did innovation consulting, or we developed innovative services and products, it was seen as more of an art, and it was seen as coming from the creative side, maybe from R&D. But what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years is it's become, in most cases, an enterprise-wide imperative. So it's something that marketing participates in heavily, sales, manufacturing, R&D, engineering. It's one of those things that is kind of quintessentially cross-functional. Well, that immediately created a challenge for many companies and for professionals, because the tools and language, as we all know, in marketing or in R&D kind of runs right by each other. And so it used to be that there was just lack of communication. And then as kind of gurus emerged in innovation on the marketing side or the technology side, you ended up with what I would call dissonance. You ended up with people saying the same thing but using different words and almost yelling at each other. And so what happened is most of our clients said, how can we create more resonance? How can we create more of a common language? How can we create a professional certification, not just an academic degree? So as universities started to offer academic credentials, the professional community, and particularly the business community, said that doesn't help because they're all talking the language of the guru they may have had as a professor. Can you develop a more common set of tools, a common language, as I said, more of a professional certification? So what happened is we started working with a group of people, both from academia and from business and from consulting, to try to see if in fact we could build a common set of language. And that's how this evolved. We had an initial board, advisory board, to come up with, which was like pulling teeth in some cases, to get everybody to agree on common language. It's one of the purposes of today's webinar, is to reach out further to the community to make sure that in fact we've hit the most critical points and we have a, what I would call a large enough tent that everybody can see how they play, how different functions have a critical role, how it addresses different types of innovation. So that was the origin of it. And over the last year or two, we've actually put real content behind it in terms of both metrics and audit tools, in terms of testing protocols, in terms of the kind of competencies that really are required to operate effectively at different levels of mastery of innovation.
Hey, Ron, speaking of mastery, gotta love webinars and technology. Some of the folks are saying that the sound is a little low, so I'm going to ask you if you can just maybe either get closer to your microphone or project your microphone.
All right, I will do that. So let me summarize also just what I said a moment ago. So the origin of this was requests by lots of players on the academic side, on the professional side, in business, to come up with more common language, common protocols, common standards for what mastery and innovation was, so that you really could move to professional certification as it has transpired in things like Six Sigma or project management or accounting or whatever. So that was the origin. So we worked with the groups. We helped establish a nonprofit Global Innovation Management Institute with a board. We worked closely with Hult International Business School because they have campuses throughout the world. It gave us the global footprint we wanted. And IXL Center, with its kind of roots in Arthur D. Little and the Monitor Group and teaching of various kinds, had that same kind of global footprint. So that's who we initially worked with, and we are continuing to reach out to hopefully a much broader community.
So tell us a little bit about GIMI, which I just popped up onto the screen.
So GIM was initially, there was a recognition that we wanted a neutral body who could oversee particularly the certification, but who would be a credible body to essentially ratify the ways we measure critical competencies and mastery and innovation. And so we established this institute to do that with a board, hopefully, that was representative, as I said, of the professional community, academia, and business to help move this forward. So we really had a global basis for reaching out and connecting with the community.
Okay. And then the next partner in this process is Hult, and you mentioned it briefly, but perhaps you can go into just a little bit more detail about what makes Hult a different kind of business school.
All right. So most of us at the Innovation Excellence and Leadership Center have taught at multiple academic institutions and still do. Hult offered a unique opportunity because it was very focused on experiential learning and what we call action learning and blended action learning. So it could be communicated both in-person sessions as well as virtually, and it had this global footprint. So what we were trying to do, because we wanted to make it a common global language, and because we wanted to cut across functions and we wanted to make it action learning, Hult was kind of the ideal vehicle to do that. It's also now the largest business school in the world. And so it gave us a lot of reach into different partner academic institutions, as well as the campuses and training facilities that Hult offers.
And Hult is in how many countries now? I know it's all over the world.
Yeah, so the campuses are in London, in Dubai, in Boston, in San Francisco, in Sao Paulo, and in Shanghai. And next year, the new campus will be in New York.
Ah, very cool. I didn't know about New York. All right, and moving along, thank you for that. Oh, by the way, I should mention Hult is accrediting accrediting these certifications.
Yes, so that was the other reason to have an academic partner, was to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the certification kind of met academic standards, that in fact could you could use the credits if you wanted to go back to business school or something else. So we felt from the beginning that it really needed an academic partner, again, one who had global reach, so it wasn't seen as a kind of proponent of any particular theory of the case.
Okay. Next up, the IXL Center, again, just running through the partners in this certification.
Right. So IXL Center is an organization that was founded about 7 or 8 years ago. Most of us came out of a long heritage of innovation consulting and innovation implementation with Arthur D. Little, with the Monitor Group, with largely consulting organizations, but also all of us had been teaching at various institutions. And we really felt that the time had come to really focus on building as I said, a common community and a common language and capabilities that could actually be developed in people, as opposed to depending on the consulting world to deliver results, or depending on the traditional academic community to teach people how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Hence becoming a profession.
Yes.
And then if we move on to innovation excellence, everyone that is on the web chat today was invited through us. We're obviously an online global community for practitioners. And we're co-creating this global innovation certification community with you, with Hult, with Jim. What are you hoping to get from the beta test with our community?
Well, there's several things. First of all, we want to make sure that as a professional certificate, it really helps the community directly. So it helps them communicate with each other. It helps them move ahead and build stronger bridges to other professionals, not just innovation professionals, but financial professionals, technology professionals. So we want to make sure it serves your need in terms of actually having a certificate that is some certification of mastery, but that also the tools you can access, the learning you get from acquiring the certificate actually helps you in doing your daily work as well as advancing in the profession. And because most of you are active in the innovation field, we want to make sure that the way we position and discuss each of the key competencies and the testing protocols we use reflects the kind of consensus of a broader community, and is, as I said earlier, kind of a wide enough tent that everybody feels it's one they can buy into.
Yes, and that I have to say from the very beginning is something that I so appreciated about your approach to this. And as we talk about the certification, I think the folks on the phone will really understand how truly open it is. Moving along, talk to us a little bit about why certification. You've said a few things, but I love your language about strategy, capacity, and discipline.
Yeah.
Why is this a good time in the world to begin a global certification for innovation?
Well, I think, first of all, innovation has become much higher on the priority list of both businesses and nonprofit organizations and academic institutions. So it's moved rapidly up the list of important competencies that people need to have, important capabilities that need to be developed during their professional development and education. So that was one thing. The second thing was that it was a mess. Frankly, there were so many books. We've written some, others have written others. There were so many books, it was just getting very messy. And so you had lots of experts of innovation who, as I said earlier, were basically saying the same thing but using different words and frankly confusing everybody. So we wanted to, the people we knew in the business and academic community wanted to essentially say enough already. We're all saying the same thing. Let's get on this train and have a common language so that when people move from company to company, or when innovation experts in marketing want to talk about innovation experts in R&D, they can talk about the same tools, use the same language, and move forward together, as opposed to arguing forever about which framework is right or which language system is right.
Without, compromising their integrity as individuals. Again, back to this quality of openness. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the opportunities for the people on the phone and the people who want to get involved in the certification.
Right. So there were the first thing was we wanted to make sure that it covered all the most critical elements. So the first year or so was very focused on making sure we had the right elements to focus on, the right balance, that they were all measurable, that they were, in fact, competencies you could develop, you could train people in, you could develop tools for. So there were, one of the key things here is to make sure we have the right three things. And then, this is often as the case, we have three groups of three. So we'll get to that in a minute, but we wanted to make sure that at the strategy level, that people had the right tools to build and develop and align innovation strategy, portfolios and pipelines and everything else with the company, that they had the ability to manage effective processes and teams and people and resources. So the capacity was there, and then the discipline to follow through, the way to measure it, the way to organize and everything else. So we spent a lot of time doing that. I think we now have consensus among a lot of very different kinds of people and stakeholders, but we want to reach out continually. I wouldn't say one last time, but we want to reach out further again and say, do we have the right buckets, those three largest buckets of strategy, capacity, and discipline, and then the particular competencies within that are most critical. So that's kind of the main thing we want immediately from the community, and we want to make sure that the community is able both to learn and to teach. So everybody has come through kind of learn by doing, and we want to make sure that for those who want to, that they can train others, whether it's side by side or whether it's in team or whether it's in more formal leadership development and training programs of companies or academic institutions. So there are opportunities to actually train and develop your peers. There are opportunities to gain a broader base of mastery in best practices and skills and innovation. And there are opportunities to be kind of, as Julie said earlier, in on the ground floor of making sure that we're focusing on the right things.
I mean, to take a page out of, Tom Peters' book, we really, we're all part of a movement. We want to amplify that movement.
Right.
So here are those, let's start with the levels of competency, and maybe you could just take people through them.
Right. So there are four levels that, as we've talked to everybody, seem to resonate. One was, as in any certification, you want a common foundation of understanding what innovation is, what are different types of innovation, what are the key ingredients to make for successful innovations. So we called that the associate level, which is just the foundation level. It says that you have enough of a basis that you can work on any innovation team and have basically a common understanding. Then the level two, which we call kind of mastery, is mastery of skills and tools that allow you to both build and develop and sell the most powerful kinds of more complete business innovation concepts. So it's more tool focused, it's more generating results, enabling you and your peers to have common tools that really both enable and frankly force people to think beyond the norm, to come up with bigger and bolder ideas. So the second level we called mastery, which is not just understanding, but it's the tools that enable you to shine. It's the tools that enable whole teams to be high performance teams, to come up with really winning innovations. So that's the second level. And those are both, I'd call, results-oriented certification and training, so that you can generate bigger, bolder results. You can do it better, cheaper, faster but it's all results. Level 3 is for people who either aspire to or are currently responsible for managing innovation. And that's a tall order in most companies because there's no department of innovation, and probably shouldn't be, but trying to manage innovation across marketing, sales, manufacturing, R&D is a daunting task. And we wanted to make sure that people had access to the tools and best practices of how to manage innovation across not only a company, but across the extended enterprise, because most successful innovation initiatives involve external partners, it involves co-creation with customers, it involves kind of the full value chain. So again, managing innovation is not like managing an accounting function. Managing innovation is much more challenging, a lot more ambiguity, a lot more complexity, but there are tools that will enable you to manage it better in your company, to recommend ways that it can be organized better or measured better in your company. So level 3 is management, and then level 4 is for those of you who aspire to, or those of you who want your leaders to better understand how to lead innovation. Level 4 is about innovation leadership, how you as individuals, how your organization as an institution can become much more in the leadership mode of driving innovation in your industry or in your company.
Great. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions about this. But moving into your 3x3, I think here it is. So maybe
yes,
you can take us through this.
So there was a lot of work that went into this, not a lot of co-creation with all of our partners as we build out the Global Innovation Management Institute. And from the beginning, I think there was pretty strong agreement of the 3 large buckets. One was strategy. So how do we make decisions about why we need to innovate, what's the imperative, where we need to innovate, and when. So it's different than conventional strategy, in part because there's such a strong focus on timing and sequencing and when, and options for the future and being prepared for the future, as well as the why, and because it's not conventional operational improvement. So strategy was a big one because it is different than conventional business strategy, but needs to be aligned with business strategy. The second one was sometimes called capacity, sometimes called capability, but it was focused on people. And you'll notice that the middle one is people, not process. So process is a piece of it, but it's only one of 9 things. So this is not just or particularly about the innovation process. It recognizes that process is a critical part of capacity, people and teams are an important part of capacity, and resources and assets are an important part of capacity, both in terms of how you leverage them, how you manage them, etc. So capacity, sometimes called capability, was always a central piece of this. And the third one was discipline, kind of being able to finish what we start, being able to measure what we do, having people clearly accountable, understanding the underlying behaviors and culture that need to be in place, the rewards and recognition that need to be used. And so we kind of grouped all those in discipline. You can call it leadership and culture, you can call it behavior, but the word that we ended up with was because there was a feeling that most organizations have trouble finishing what they start. And so this was definitely focused on that aspect of innovation, following through, making people accountable, rewarding people, recognizing people for what they do. So those are the 3 large buckets. And as I alluded, there in each one, there are probably 5 or 6 specific competencies. The ones we picked were the ones effectively that got the most votes from our constituency. But we're certainly open to if people think, and we're not wedded to there has to be 3 in every one. We're kind of fans of keeping it fairly simple. But if there's something that's really missing that needs to be added, we'd like to know what the adds are. If something is on here that you think shouldn't be on here, we're certainly willing to delete it or to modify it. As I said, just quickly, why is all around the strategic imperative for innovation. Where is really all the portfolio tools for deciding where to play and how much risk to take, et cetera. And when is all about the pipeline. So it's the pipeline, the portfolio, and the imperative. Those were the three things that people generally felt were most critical in the strategic arena. As I said before, process, people, and resources was pretty clear and straightforward. I'd say the thing that was different here is there was a strong recognition that the people was not just individuals, it was how do you develop high performance innovation teams, how do you develop beyond teams high performance innovation networks, and how do you develop innovation partners. So people became much broader than just individual capacity. And then under discipline, I think they're relatively self-explanatory: leadership, but also organization. So leadership, organization, accountability, behaviors, which is just a way of more effectively measuring culture and the kind of behavior it creates among people in your organization, and then the metrics, reward, and recognition.
Mm-hmm. You know, Ron, I think you've done a really nice job of laying these out. I'm thinking that the next 3 slides, which go deeper, we maybe click right through and go to how it works.
Sure.
Because people can, we've got a lot of questions, and I want to make sure, you know, that would that be okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, all right. So, and by the way, this presentation will be available to folks, and when we send you the thank you for joining us, you will, you know, find the way to access it. But now, you know, here's the kind of getting where the rubber meets the road. Here's how it works. And I will say that it took me a while to understand the distinction, and I do a lot of innovation education, as many of the folks on the phone do. The distinction between certification and education. They're very connected, but what we are presenting here is a certification, not a training program. There are some training and learning programs associated with it, but it leaves, again, as I was saying earlier, you said an open tent. This is an open system where the folks on the phone can plug their own education into this certification. I think that's a really important point. It took me a while, as I said, to wrap my head around that. So, Ron, why don't you take us?
Sure. So I think the key thing here, as Julie was alluding to, is that we wanted this to focus on professional certification, not just another training program, but we wanted it to be something that many people who provide training programs or education programs or leadership development programs could link into, to make sure that what people picked up in those training programs could be applied in a job situation, so that people could see the importance and relevance, and then we could incorporate that into testing protocols and certification. So the certification is as much about experience as in a number of other professional certifications. There is a knowledge component, and the knowledge component you can pick up by kind of reading online materials or by going to training sessions or taking courses, but there is a knowledge component. I'd say the knowledge component is probably maybe a third or less of it. It's probably more like a quarter. There's a big piece in the middle that's very focused on the competence to use tools that kind of cut across functions that can enable you to progress rapidly. So there's a skills piece of it, and the skills is something you can learn a little bit about in a training program, but you actually have to apply the skills. So there's very much more focus on what we said before: action learning, experiential learning, applying what you may have picked up in books or from peers or from training, applying it in your job. So the certification is, yes, there's a test you can take, which is largely knowledge and kind of some of the key skills, but most of it is showing how you have been applying those or able to apply those in your job. So particularly in level 2 and in level 4, it is very much submitting work that demonstrates how you've been using tools, how you've been using principles both on the results side and on the management side that demonstrate effectively your mastery. And so there's a panel of people who kind of review the submissions as well as the results to make sure not only that they pass muster, but that we can provide commentary on the kinds of skills you may need to work on to augment to make sure you, in fact, can hit on all cylinders.
So it's possible that somebody who's already a practitioner could go through the certification and just, participate in it, take the test, submit the examples of their work on the basis of their experience, and not go, quote unquote, back to school.
Yeah. No, I don't think you certainly wouldn't have to, quote unquote, go back to school or go take specialized training. It could help for people who are just coming into the profession. I think the online materials just are helpful getting to a common language, because as in any test, whether it's in English, German, Chinese, or whatever, there is kind of a language question. And it's not just German versus English, it's the kind of terminology that is used to describe key principles. So I think it's probably useful to have online materials just to be able to navigate the language system. But in terms of actually applying it, it's a universal language, so there's not really a language issue. It's applying the tools and getting the results you want. So yes, it's very definitely possible to get the certifications without taking any additional courses or training or anything else. It's an experience-based professional certification.
Right.
So
And
it's not just number of years, it's demonstrating competency and control over the kind of key tools and approaches you would need to take to drive winning innovations.
great. So let me move on to the next slide, which is an exciting one. Ron, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I know you were.
Yeah, so another kind of foundational element we use to develop the most critical competencies and the protocols and everything else was our work initially with the Hult faculty and student body worldwide, because no country can have more than 10% of the student body at any campus. So we were able to assure that we had developed a language system that worked in China, in Japan, in Brazil, in India, in Germany, wherever. And as we did that, we had to make things that really worked for people coming from a wide different set of differing perspectives. They could come from technology and engineering or marketing or wherever. And as we did that and worked to develop these competitions where teams compete with each other to serve clients in what we call Innovation Olympics programs and action learning programs, that allowed us to perfect the kinds of tools and competencies that people really needed. Once we were able to do that for several years for teams competing for challenges posed by companies or nonprofits, we began to work with the Clinton Global Initiative on something that's now called the Hult Prize, which was another way to assure that people from very different academic backgrounds, very different professional experience, could all kind of get on the same page effectively as they were trying to compete for prizes. So the current generation of the Hult Prize, which Mary Anixter was here kind of documenting at the Hult Accelerator, is we had over 300 teams from 300 different institutions worldwide competing, in this case to address the issue of food security in urban slums. Last year it was more, or the year before it was on sanitary health, sanitation and water supplies. But this year it was on food security in urban slums. We had teams competing in all regions of the world using, again, it was all on innovation, innovative solutions, scalable solutions to this particular issue this year. and it came down to 6 finalists, the finalists from each region plus an internet finalist. And now we're working with them with the next stages of innovation execution, how they can take their innovative ideas to market, how they can scale them up. And so again, it helps us continue to refine the kinds of tools that different people addressing different kinds of innovation can really use to rapidly advance their ideas. And so it's been a very exciting kind of process with these Hult Prize teams. In this case, the winning team, the 6 teams will present to the Clinton Global Initiative in late September. The winning team will receive $1 million directly as seed capital to invest in moving their idea forward. So, and Bill Clinton and others have felt that this is kind of a major breakthrough in how we can address social issues. And since innovation is critical to all of these, it's given us a platform to really to pressure test the kinds of tools and competencies that we've been developing over the last 20 years.
Well, it's so exciting, and I just want to foot stomp, the part that the documentation of the process, the learning from the process, which, by the way, is, after the teams, the other case studies, and that, this case study or these case studies will be part of the curriculum and the offering that we will share with people who get involved in the certification. So we're trying to build a bigger knowledge community around the learnings from the certification. It's really real-time learning, and we'll let people know how they can participate in the Clinton Global Initiative. It does get streamed live, and it's just very exciting.
Yes.
All right, so moving on, this is our last slide, and then we're going to take questions. This is really kind of the, what do they call it, the money slide. What do you get as a participant, and what do you get as a member of our community? And Ron, I'll just toss it back to you.
Sure. And this is both, it's not only what we hope to deliver, it's what we have been delivering to the community as it's been growing. If there are other things that you feel that you as individual participants can get, or that the whole community can get from this process, again, we're open to kind of add, modify, delete from this list. Clearly, as participants, both in the certification process and frankly in the innovation excellence community, it's access to thought leadership, not only within your function, but across all functions, how you can really, what are the emerging best practices that can help you drive winning innovation and success in your organization, whether it's a commercial organization or a nonprofit. So thought leadership is a big piece. Capability is the other, I'd say, significant piece. So we want to make sure this is not just a paper certification that you send off in the mail and with a check and you get a certification. You want to make sure that you actually, it enables you to get access to cutting edge tools that you can use to apply in your daily work, and that it actually builds your capabilities. So building capabilities is our focus, not just giving you a ticket. The MBA accredited certificate is the ticket. So we do want to make sure that you get recognized for achieving mastery in different aspects of innovation. So that's a third thing that we have on our list for what participants get. I think the other thing is really a quiver of arrows, or a checklist of capabilities, so that you can manage your own development and make sure that you have the tools, you have the arrows, you have the ammunition, you have the behaviors that can enable you to excel in the innovation arena. And the last one is is access, really. It's called blended learning there, but we want to make sure that the community, that the participants in the community have access to materials, have access to tools through a variety of mechanisms, so that they don't have to take a given training program at a given location in a given part of the world, but it really is available anytime, anywhere. So that's for individual participants. Again, if people would like to see other things that they could get individually, please either type them in or send an email or ask a question now, and we'll try to add them, because the whole point here is to make sure that it does benefit each of you as individual participants. Now, that's for the individual participants. I think in our partnership with Innovation Excellence, we want to make sure that the larger Innovation Excellence community can really benefit from this. And part of this is, I think all of us are committed to try to move this forward as a profession in its own right, not just as a side skill. And so we want to make sure that we have a scalable platform that the community can all kind of move forward with. We want to have benchmarks and metrics that allow you to measure your own performance, but the community to kind of buy into a common set of metrics and performance standards that they can stand by as kind of measures of excellence. The community can also clearly provide training, so those who want to take advantage of training and skills development, as well as applying those skills in their job, that they have access to that training. So the community members, as I mentioned earlier, who want to provide training either to peers or within their organization, or train the trainer options, or even as kind of training programs, that you're able to do that. You have access to the materials that can make it easy for you to train others. We want to create an easy button for the community to be able to implement certification across your organization, and to also put in place those metrics and performance measures that will work in your organization. And the last thing is early access to emerging best practices and applications of these tools, like with the Hult Prize, like with the Innovation Olympics, where we're trying to assure that the tools and competencies that we're focused on are accessible to a wide range of applications. So those are the what we've been trying to do and hopefully doing some of. And as I say, if there are things you feel that would be good additions of benefits to you as individuals or the community, please let us know.
And in the next slide, we will have all of our email addresses. And with that, I think, Mari, if you can, if there's some questions, we'd love to field them.
Can you give us some examples of how certification has directly led to business results, perhaps some of the projects? And that comes from Stephen Smith.
Yeah, I think the standardization certification process, I think the biggest impact it has had is in speed. So it has to do with a common language and tools that enable people to get to bridge gaps quickly. So we focus on tools that first enable people to avoid getting stuck or to get unstuck. And so when you're working on cross-functional teams, I think the biggest impact of certification has been that everybody on the team they're basically in the same book. So they can, the language they use, the tools they use are comfortable to people on the team, so they don't spend 80% of their time arguing about semantics or which tool to use or what is most important, because there's a recognition that it is a whole system. So I think that's the biggest impact. I think the companies and organizations we've worked with that the other impact, particularly I'd say in things like the Hult Prize and in the Innovation Olympics competitions we run, is that it enables people and teams to quickly come up with what I'd call bigger and bolder ideas. So the tools they have, the sourcing they have for idea fragments, the ways that they learn how to connect idea fragments into more powerful concepts, the pressure testing techniques they use for building stronger concepts and innovations. I think those are things that enable teams to have much more, much bigger and bolder, as I said, more breakthrough kinds of concepts as opposed to incremental concepts. I think most companies and organizations have complained that either whether it's the risk-averse culture or just the nature of tools people use, things get too incremental. And so we've focused in these kinds of tools and competencies with things that push people into developing bigger, bolder concepts. So that I'd say those are the two biggest things. I'd say that the proof of it has been where people have said we've done it in parallel with teams that have been trained and teams that haven't been trained, and the teams that haven't been trained take a lot longer if they ever get to results, and they don't get to bigger results because they make too many compromises along the way.
Julie, we have another question for Ron from Mario Morales.
Ron, this is Mario Morales from Costa Rica, Central America.
Yes.
Very excited about these standards and certification. Where can one, as a practitioner, get certified in the next months or weeks? Who will be certifying? Can one be a certifier in the future? And what are the next steps for the beta?
Yeah, so there are, first of all, it doesn't matter where in the world you are in terms of getting certified, getting access to materials. As I said before, some of them, the most critical materials are all available online. Training, actually, one of our partners is now head of innovation in the country of Guatemala, Ben Zavolka. So he's doing a lot of innovation training and a lot of innovation seminars there. He moved down there about 6 months ago. So there are kind of nodes of activity kind of throughout the world in different countries that you can kind of join and become part of. And if you send me an email, I'd be glad to put you in touch with him as an example. One of our partners actually lives in Costa Rica, right? Doesn't
Yes, Rowan Gibson and Zulma Acevedo, yes they do.
So that's kind of another point of connection. But in terms of actually becoming certified, taking the tests, submitting proposals for the level 2 certification, you can do that now. There's no, we're kind of, the doors are open. We've been certifying people now for about 3 or 4 years. This is the first time we've taken that certification kind of to the larger public community, which is why we're doing this with Innovation Excellence.
Great.
On the next slide, we will have a URL that you can access.
We have another question.
Hey, Ron and Mari, along these lines, let me just jump in, and there have been a couple of questions about the cost of the certification. So Ron, I think that's an important question. Maybe you could address that.
Yes, so the costs have been pegged at a various kind of similar price for other certifications. It all goes to the efforts of to the nonprofit, to the Global Innovation Management Institute and the Innovation and to Innovation Excellence. So it's all proceeds that are used to kind of further the cause. So the price for each certification is $500 US. There is a pricing, a tiered pricing structure so that for organizations that want to get large numbers of their employees certified, there's obviously kind of packages that we can do because the projects people are working on are similar. And then for academic institutions, for full-time students, the price is 50% of the 500. So there's a full-time student price, there's an individual practitioner price, and there's a group price.
Thank you.
Let's go to Michael Moriarty. Michael, do you have a question for Ron?
Sure. Yeah, I was just curious, if this is more geared towards practitioners or consultants, or is it kind of neutral?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about who'd most benefit from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, I would say it's new. We've made the tent big enough intentionally so it works for consultants who are in fact practitioners of one type. It certainly works for people who are more part-time practitioners. They have a day job, but in addition, they're trying to drive innovation in their company. It's also intended, obviously, for people who have management responsibility for innovation. So hopefully we've created kind of a large enough tent that it helps everybody who has some accountability, whether as a consultant or a staff person, to drive innovation in their organization. So the tools, one is the competency, the ability to use the tools. The specific tools can be obviously used by a consultant, but they can also be used within a company by practitioners, and managers and leaders of innovation need to understand the nuances of the tools that are being used to build stronger concepts, to pressure test those concepts, to build rapid prototypes, et cetera.
And I would just, add to that, that we've been thinking also that some of the consultants in our network might take this certification out and run with it and do some customization, work around it. For instance, if you were in finance or healthcare, or you had a particular company you wanted to bring it into, there are all kinds of opportunities for you to really build a program around it and have that validation of, sort of a global certification and an MBA accreditation behind you. So I think the sky's the limit in terms of how each consultant on the line could use this, and we're going to be discovering that together, and we really want to support you in those efforts.
And Julie, we're running out of time. We can take a few more questions, but we should add that we want to make sure that the audience understands that we will get back in touch with them directly based on their questions.
We'll take a couple of questions, but here in the meantime are our emails, and you can email any of us. And I told you there was a URL on the slide. There isn't, but we will send it out in the follow-up email where we thank you. We've been playing around with the landing pages a little bit, so we're still a little bit in beta mode, as you can tell. So that'll go out along with how you can get the slides so you can use them, and the recording so you can kind of use it as some background. We're very committed to our community being able to use certification as a tool to grow your own business and your own sphere of influence. So with that, Murray, is there any other questions on the line? We definitely want to hook up with people who are committed, and we know there are a lot of people working hard in this field. So as Ron keeps saying and I keep saying, it's a big tent. We definitely want to coordinate and collaborate.
Harvey Wade, are you online?
Okay. I am, yes. But I've had my question answered previously from the cost question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's try another.
All right. Well, it seems like we've gotten to the questions, and we know everybody's very, very busy. So maybe we'll wrap and thank you all for your time with us today. We really are delighted that you joined us. We'll have a lot more discussion on our site and within our community, and certainly just reach out to us directly if you have anything immediate that you want to learn more about. Ron, any closing comments from you?
Yeah, I think we're still definitely even though we've been doing the certification for several years now and we've reached out to a lot of different constituencies, we're still in a kind of co-development, co-creation mode. So please don't hesitate. If you feel there's something missing, please let us know, and we'll either make sure it's not missing, find a place to put it in, or let you know where it's already covered. But we've tried very hard to make this inclusive and comprehensive, yet focused on the things that are most critical to success. So if you think of what gets in your way as professionals or as consultants, if you think of what makes you successful, we want to make sure that those things really are covered by the certification. So if you see something missing, or if you see something that you're curious, why the heck is that there? Let us know, and we'll respond very quickly to your emails. We want to make sure we get it right.
So with that, I really, again, I want to thank everybody and wish you all a great week, and we look forward to being in touch with you. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.